Good evening. I'm your host, Shameika Rhymes, and welcome to Soulibration. Let me know where you are watching from and how you're doing this evening in the chat. And remember to share this with your network. And if you have any questions at all throughout the show, drop it in the chat because after all, you guys are the co-hosts. So this week on Soulibration, and I mentioned it last week, but tonight we're going to be talking about the life-saving power of stem cell donation. According to the Health Resources and Services Administration, approximately 18,000 people up to the age of 74 are in need of life-saving bone marrow or stem cell transplant. Of that number, only 30% or 12,000 people will find a match in their families, and the other 70% rely on donors. And African American patients have just a 29% chance of finding a match compared to 79% for white patients, according to the National Marrow Donor Program. So tonight's show, years after signing up to be a potential donor, my guest finally got the call that he was a match. And so he's here tonight to share what that process really looks like, the emotions behind it, and why saying yes to being a donor can truly change and even save someone's life. So let me introduce you to tonight's guest. Anthony Austin, he is an Emmy-nominated journalist who first joined First Coast News in Jacksonville, Florida in January 2016 as an anchor and reporter. And he currently anchors the evening newscast and helps people with problems they can't solve in his popular Ask Anthony series. And here's a little secret, y'all. I used to be Anthony's news producer when he worked in North Carolina. So it's like a reunion of sorts. So let's welcome Anthony.
Oh, Shameika, it is indeed a reunion. I'm so glad you invited me. And like Shameika said, she was one of my former producers. So I'm used to taking cues and directions from her. And her bossing me around.
And putting things in your teleprompter.
Exactly. Trying to see what I'll say.
Exactly. And you did good. You would always catch it.
I would.
So Anthony, take us back to the moment that whatever was happening in your life. Let's see, was it 2008 around that time when you signed up to be a bone marrow donor? What was going on in your life, your career at that time, and what made you decide, I need to do this?
So Shameika, I signed up back in August of 2008. I was a new reporter, fresh out of college. I'm originally from Texas. I graduated from the University of North Texas. And my first job out of college was in my hometown of Tyler, Texas. That's over in East Texas, not too far away from Dallas. That's the next big city heading north of Tyler. So I was working at the CBS affiliate there in my hometown, and I was the weekend anchor and also the weekend reporter, the weekend producer, editor. I did it all because that's what you do with small market TV. So my job was during the day, I would go report, and then I would anchor the news that night. And I have been following a story about a young girl. Her name was Emma Ruth, and she had a rare blood disorder. And she was looking for donors. And Shameika, you know, as a producer, that, you know, us reporters, we try to tell the story the best way we can. And we do what's called a stand-up, where it's us appearing in the story to kind of show people different things. And in the story, I decided the best stand-up I could do would be to actually sign up as a donor. So I swabbed my cheek, because that's all you have to do. You just swab your cheek, and it's simple as that. And then you're put into the registry. So I did that for the sake of the story. I became a donor myself. And I kind of thought to myself, I'll probably never get called, but, you know, why not? I was like, it's for a good cause. I'll go ahead and do it. And, you know, I thought at the time, maybe I'm a match for this little girl. So, you know, why not go ahead and do it?
Yeah.
Well, I did it then, told her story. 17 years later, I'm now in Jacksonville, Florida, anchoring the 5 o'clock news, and I get a phone call literally minutes before the news from the registry, from Be the Match, or I think they're called, well, now they're called the National Marrow Donor Program. But I got a call from them saying, hey, we really need to talk to you. At first, I thought it was a scam. Then they sent a text message saying, hey, this is NMDP. We need to talk to you because we believe you're a match for a gentleman with leukemia. And honestly, I was just shocked. I told my co-anchor at the time, I was like, you won't believe this text message I just got. I
Mhm.
was like, 17 years later, they're telling me I'm a match. I didn't even know they still had my information. I mean, the good thing is I haven't changed my phone number since high school. So I've had phone number. So they were
That's
able,
good to know because I was going to
yeah,
call you.
exactly. So they were able to reach out to me. But 17
Wow.
years later, I finally got the call saying I could help save someone's life.
I'm so floored right now because, yeah, like you said, 2008, you were just doing a stand up for the sake of the story, but in the back of your mind, like this could also help. Yeah, I probably would have forgotten that I'd even done that.
And that's what they asked me when they called. They were like, "Do you even remember doing this?" And I said, "No, because I did it for the story." And it's always been in the back of my mind, what if they do call one day? But like I said, 17 years later, I'm thinking, I mean, I'm almost 40 now. I'm like, there's no way they're going to call me. They probably don't even have my information. They probably threw it away, but
Mhm.
it's still there.
Like you said, it's in the registry.
It is.
So yeah, I see some comments. Welcome, Lapri from Charlotte. I see John Champion, who is a former
Yeah,
coworker as well in
that's right.
Raleigh.
Hello, Lapri and John.
Yeah, welcome you guys. So for those that may not know, can you explain what stem cells are and why they're so important in treating diseases like leukemia?
Yeah, I can. So to tell you a little bit about it, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but this is kind of what I've learned going through the process. So when I signed up back then, 17 years ago, bone marrow donation involved having to go under anesthesia and then having them actually stick a needle into your side, into your bone to get the bone marrow. So when they called, I was a little nervous because I thought that that's what they were going to have to do. I mean, I was willing to
Yeah.
do it, but I was a little anxious about having to go into the hospital, be put under anesthesia, stay in the hospital for a few nights or whatever it may be. But then they told me that the method that they would use for me is called PBSC. And it's a type of, let me see if I have my notes because I want to get it correct. So
Okay.
peripheral blood stem cell donation is one of two methods used to actually collect blood forming cells for a life-saving transplant. It's non-surgical. It's an outpatient procedure that's actually done through an IV. So blood stem cells, that's what you asked. What are they? They're blood
Mhm.
producing cells that actually create white and red blood cells as well as platelets. And these blood stem cells can actually self-renew, meaning that they can divide to produce even more blood stem cells. And because of their versatility, they're vital for fighting a host of diseases and maintaining a healthy immune system. So when found circulating in the blood, they're called peripheral blood stem cells. And so that's what I was able to do. They were able to pull that out of my bloodstream to donate to the person with leukemia who needed, because basically at the time they needed almost like a, I'm trying to think of the word to use, almost like a reboot, a start. They needed
Yeah.
fresh blood to
Hmm.
put into them in order to fight this cancer. And that's what they were able to do with me.
Wow, because I think I have thought the same as you. Because when I first saw you mention it on Facebook, I thought, oh, this is going to be like an intense type of
Right.
surgery. And so, but then when I was looking at your pictures, I was like, and then you're like, I'm done. It was like, well, when did you spend the night in the hospital?
Right,
Because like
exactly.
you said, it wasn't like that.
It wasn't like that at all. I mean, basically, I went to a treatment facility. So, like I said, I'm in Florida right now, and they try to keep you close to home. So, they sent me down to South Florida in
Mhm.
Boca Raton to a facility there that specializes in doing this every single day. And it was
Okay.
such a nice facility. And Shameika, I mean, they treated me like a celebrity. I had a hotel on the beach, I had a black car service.
Okay.
There were snacks in the hotel room when I got there, like everything I needed. They made it possible. So the
Hmm.
morning of the actual donation, a black car with a driver picked me up, took me to the facility. I was pretty much in and out. I think I got there around 8:30 in the morning. I was done by 1 o'clock. And it
Wow.
was just basically me laying there in the chair. And it was almost like donating blood. And they just basically, blood is drawn from one arm and then it's passed through a machine that collects your blood stem cells and then it's returned to your body through the other arm. And then the process is similar to donating, like I said, plasma or
Hmm.
platelet. they're able to separate, get the stem cells that they need to be able to donate to this gentleman. And they told me basically I was like a super producer because I produced enough
Yeah.
quickly, so quickly that they were able to get what they needed. Because for some people, the procedure itself, it can last from 6 to 8 hours. It
Oh,
took me
wow.
4. Some people, they might have to donate for 2 days. That's usually women.
Hmm.
Might have to do it because they told me, for example, you might have a petite woman who's having to donate to a guy my size. Well, they
Hmm.
can't produce enough, in one day, so they have to come back for a second day. And also, a lot of women, deal with low iron and things like that. So the
Right.
process can be, a little difficult for women. But for me, I was able to get it done quickly.
Hmm.
I have a personal concierge, someone who was there, asked me if I needed any snacks. They baked cookies for me. I was able to watch Netflix.
Hmm.
I was able to play video games if I wanted. They got me lunch from Cheesecake Factory. A woman came in with a menu and said, "What do you want? Just pick whatever you want." And they brought it in.
Wow.
I was able to have lunch, all that good stuff. So, I mean, they made it as easy as possible. And I didn't have to pay a single thing for all of this. That's what, because somebody asked me, they were like, "Do you have to pay your own way or spend your own money?" And I said, I
Hmm.
didn't have to spend a dime. They paid for everything, for gas, for all my meals leading up to it and after.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, the hotel room, the car service, everything was paid for.
Wow. And I see you answered Lapree's question. She was wanting to know if it was almost like donating blood. And I was, as you're describing it,
Yeah,
was it like, and I don't know if you've ever been inside a infusion center, because when you
yeah,
mentioned low iron, at one point I had low iron and it was, and I was going to an infusion center again with snacks and,
right,
and being able to watch Netflix and stuff, but I didn't get Cheesecake Factory or anything
right.
like that. But yeah, so I think that this is helpful because I think a lot of times people are so afraid of signing up to
Exactly.
be any kind of donor because of,
Mhm.
we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but just this helps see that this process was not like as dramatic in our heads as we thought. Like, like you said, the big needle and having to stay in the hospital. Lepre even said, wow, this process has changed over the
Yeah.
years. I guess FR is for real, for real. Lepre, I'm old. I don't know what
Yeah,
those
it is
acronyms.
for real, for real. And no, and
So,
Shamika, that's why I've been so open
yeah,
about this. And I've done stories here at my TV station about it too, because there's such a big misconception that it's a painful that's process. That's what I kept hearing over and over again when I would tell people.
yeah.
They were like, "Why do you want to do that? Isn't that painful? How long are you going to be in the hospital?" And I was like, "It's not like that at all." I was like, "That's the image that we have in our head, but that's not how it works." I mean, it was so easy. You just only
Mhm.
give a few hours of your day to help save somebody's life.
So I got to know this because coming from TV news, I know how some news directors can be. So
Yeah.
what was that like having to go in to tell your news director, I need to take some time off so I can go save a life?
She was great. Fun fact, I actually went to college with my news director. We were in
Oh,
college together
okay.
at
That helps.
University of Texas. So we already have a good relationship, but she wasn't aware that I was even a donor. So I went and told her, I was like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to have to take some time off because I'm going to have to go donate my stem cells." And she was like, "What? What is that?" But I mean, she was completely okay with it. She understood why I needed to do it and gave me the time that I needed. And if you don't have a boss who's understanding, the National Marrow Donor Program, they will actually write a letter for you and explain the need, and they'll even reimburse you too for the days you miss. It's a little different for me because I'm a salary worker and I'm under contract, but for
Mhm.
people who are hourly or whatever it may be, up to a certain wage, they'll pay. If you have to miss work and they won't pay you, they will pay for that. So they'll reimburse you. All you do is have to send your payment stub or
Mhm.
um, just showing how much money you make on a day, and they'll pay you for everything.
Anthony, this like you're making this sound like so easy, and I appreciate this because it's like you already get the perk of saving a life, but
Yeah,
then you're throwing in all these other perks too. Like that right there was probably the icing on the cake for somebody to want to go be a donor
right,
because they're
exactly.
probably worried about that
Mhm.
manager at work that's not going to let them off, and to know that they could still be bringing in money while they're helping to save a life. I think that's
Mhm.
huge.
Mhm. Yeah, they do everything they can to make sure that you're comfortable and that you're able to do this.
Yeah, I do see a question from Lavelia Williams.
Mhm.
She's wanting to know, do you have to have a certain blood type?
You don't. So that's the good thing about it is they want people from all backgrounds, all blood types to be able to do this. Because Shameika, I don't know if you're just now joining us. Shameika mentioned something that's very important, and I'll kind of tell you my story. So when I was talking to my representative on the phone, who's been walking me through this process, I
Mm-hmm.
asked her. I said, "What if I don't want to do this? What if I decide that maybe this is not for me, and I don't want to go
Yeah.
ahead with the process? Is there anyone else out there that could help this person?" And she said, there might be, but she said, I see that you're African American. She said, chances are, so is the person that you're donating to. And she said, you
Wow.
might be the only choice that this person has. And when she said that, I was like, oh, okay, I got to do this because Shameika, I know you kind of talked a little bit about this, but the odds are especially tough for patients of color.
Yeah.
According to the National Marrow Donor Program, Black and African American patients have just a 29% chance of finding a match. Meanwhile, white patients, they have a 79% chance.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of tells you, especially for Black people, those from, Latino, Asian, whatever it may be, there's a less representation within this registry. So a 29% chance for Black patients versus 79% for white patients. And Shameika, of course, we know, in the Black community that there is a little hesitancy
Mm-hmm.
about, medical programs, procedures, and signing up for something like
Oh,
this.
yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of contributed to the low numbers in the registry. But when it comes to another person of color needing, a donor
Right.
out there, it's so important that we step up and be a part of this so we can help someone. Because it's very specific. You have to be able to match this person when it comes to the different markers and your genetics and everything is
Mm-hmm.
very specific to find that one match. Something interesting that I learned. So the gentleman I donated to, he's actually going to take on my allergies. He's going to take on my
Oh.
blood type. I had to go through very specific testing just to make sure I was healthy enough to donate to him, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
passing along something to him. And so it's very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Usually your siblings might be able to help you, but it's not always guaranteed that they would be a match. So that's why
Right.
it's so important for strangers to sign up in this registry, so people who are in need can hopefully find someone out there who has a similar genetic makeup to them that can make the donation.
Let me go back to what you just said. You said he's going to take on your blood type
Yep.
and any allergies you had. Tell us
Yep.
about the testing that you had to do because it sounds like it was a lot of testing first before they're like, okay, now we can move forward. Tell us about that.
So it all started with me having to go have my blood drawn, and they took several vials of blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so from there, they were able to test my blood just to make sure that I'm healthy enough to see, look at my DNA, my genetics, et cetera, to make sure that this is the right match for the person that I was donating to.
Yeah.
Then after that, I had to, once they decided that, yes, I am a good match, then I had to actually go to the doctor and get a physical, just like your normal medical physical that you
Mm-hmm.
might do if you have like a yearly checkup. They just, checked my health overall and looked at several different things and, gave me a very extensive health questionnaire because they just want to make sure that there's nothing that could cause, that could compromise the health of the person you're donating to.
Yeah.
And then I had to have several vials of blood drawn again, and they kind of just looked at like infectious diseases, just kind of testing, what's in my bloodstream. And then from there, once they decided that that was all good to go, then donation day happened and they scheduled that for me.
I'm nosy. What kind of allergies?
Also, I was going to actually tell you because I told them on the phone, I was like, so this man is never going to be able to mow his grass again because I'm
We might
allergic.
be glad.
Exactly, he might be glad. I was like, if he does, he's going to have to wear a mask. And also, I'm allergic to ibuprofen, Advil, and also like sulfa products. So some medication he won't be able to take anymore. So I had to let them know about all of that.
Okay. Let's see. We got a couple more questions. Lepre's wanting to know, would that cause his DNA to be altered as well?
I don't think so because I think we already have similar genetics, so it wouldn't really be altering his DNA,
Okay.
just mainly kind of his blood type. So I think that's it. I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to give any false information, but I don't think his DNA would be changed too much.
Okay. Linda Young is wondering: do you know if there's a age limit for being able to be a donor?
That's a good question. I'm so glad you asked that, Linda, because people have been asking me that since I've been sharing my story. So they normally go to college campuses because they want to get young people. That way you can stay in the registry for longer. So, like, once again, I signed up when I was 22, so they were able to still get in contact with me while I still consider myself kind of young, even though, while I was still there. But there's people in their 50s, 60s who are still donating. So it just kind of depends. They do kind of have a cutoff, but as long as you're healthy enough, you're good to go.
Y'all are asking some good questions in the chat tonight, and that was my mother, by the way, that asked
Oh,
that.
okay. All right.
So let's talk about the mental health aspect for you,
Uh-huh.
because you mentioned that you were kind of hesitant when they called.
Yeah.
How did you prepare yourself when you decided I'm going to go ahead and do this? But you got to kind of. I keep always thinking of the song affirmations, but it's like
Exactly.
hype me up. How do you get yourself into a space where you're like, okay, this isn't about me. This is about saving
Mhm.
this person's life.
That's a very good question. I'll tell you, they calmed my nerves when they told me that it would just be like donating blood. That
Mm,
definitely helped me move
yeah.
forward and say, okay, I can do this. Donating blood, that's easy. I've done that before. I don't have to stay at a hospital. I'm fine with it. Then, of course, I told
Hmm.
friends and family, and I know your mom is in here. I call my mom too because you have to get mom's approval no matter what. Even
Oh, of course.
you gotta say, now listen, I'm going to do this. What do you think? And so, my mom too. She was like, she's familiar. She's in the medical field, so she knows, and she was familiar. And she was like, I think you. She was like, if you feel good about it, go ahead and do it. So I just, I talked to everyone around me and just kind of wanted to get their advice.
Hmm.
And a lot of people said, you're saving someone's life. If you're comfortable with it,
Yeah.
go ahead and do it. And just knowing that I was able to help someone, I was like, I got to do this. If this can keep somebody around longer, and Shameika too, I shared this on social media when I initially got the call, and there were so
Yeah.
many comments, even some people we used to work with commented saying that their loved ones were saved because of someone who donated to them.
Wow.
When I heard those stories, a lot of people I didn't even know in my personal life who's
Hmm.
been he either themselves have been saved by this type of donation, or they know someone who has been saved and
Hmm.
how they help extend their life. I said, there's no way I can say no to this.
And I think that's when we talk a lot about that here at blackdoctor.org, about the power of storytelling, about the power of
Mhm.
sharing experiences so that other people can see, like, even when it comes to clinical trials, we talk about that too, that, there's that disparity there. Because, like we said earlier, Black folks are like, I ain't doing it.
Uh-huh.
So I think it helps when like people like yourself are sharing this experience, because I think I'm seeing in the chat right now people are interested. And let's see, we've got several questions now. Labelia Williams is wanting to know, can you donate more than once?
You can. That's another good question. So, for my situation, the person I donated to, I'm going to remain as their donor for at least another year. Now, I
Okay.
do have the option the second time to say no. I'm not going to do that though, but you
Yeah.
can say no, but you do remain as kind of their primary donor. So, if they need more blood platelets or stem cells, I can go through the whole process again. It'll be less intensive the second time around. Uh,
Hmm.
I won't have to do as much as the testing and all of that the second time. But yeah, you can do it more than once. I've heard from people who have donated to more than one person. So it just kind of all depends on the match and who you're able to match with.
So how was your recovery afterwards? You said it took you 4 hours. I don't know if you went back to the hotel or if you went on back to
Yeah.
Jacksonville. How did that
Yeah.
work?
So I went back to the hotel and I slept all night. So that's
Hmm.
the only thing. I didn't have any pain, but I was tired, of course,
Yeah.
just being hooked up to a machine and, they're draining a lot of
Hmm.
blood out of you. So I just went back and slept all night. The next day, I was able to get up and go walk on the beach.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
fine. And then from there, I drove home 4 hours. I was okay. And then I even went on vacation. That weekend I was out of town, and I was able to get back to my normal habits. So I would say probably within 24 to 48 hours I
Hmm.
felt like myself. The only pain that I had that I wanted to mention. So leading up to the actual donation day, for 5 days, you have to take what's called filgrastim shots, and that stimulates your stem cells, your platelets. And so I had some bone pain, I had some hip pain, my lower back hurt,
Mm-hmm.
my rib cage, just kind of things like that. I had headaches. It kind of felt like I was getting the flu, and
Mm-hmm.
that's to happen. That's normal during this process. In fact, the first day, I didn't have any pain medication with me, and I felt so bad. I only worked half a day. I ended up leaving to go home to lay in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I always tell people that's the worst part of it. But temporary discomfort to save someone's life, I think, was worth it. So yeah, you are the 5 days leading up to the donation. You probably will have a little discomfort. It affects people differently.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they don't have any symptoms. They feel fine. Some people, they're down and out for a few days. They have to stay in the bed. That weekend, so I donated on a Monday. So I started taking the shots, I believe, on a Thursday. And
Okay.
I worked half a day on Thursday. I was able to go to work on Friday, and I just took some Tylenol with me. And then Saturday, because for a lot of people are usually around day 3 that it really hits them. So
Mm-hmm.
that Saturday I stayed in bed all day.
Okay.
And just kind of relaxed. But that was the only discomfort I had during this whole procedure.
Now, where are you injecting these shots? Or is that
So
personal?
no.
Okay.
So they'll put them in like your thigh,
Okay.
like inner thigh, outer thigh, your stomach. First day I did the stomach, but that kind of creeped me out. So I was like, can you do it somewhere else? So then they did it. They can also do it in your arms. They're just looking for like any fatty tissue because
Gotcha.
that's where they inject it. I had a home health nurse who came to my house every day to do it.
Okay. That was my next question.
Yeah, but you're also allowed to do it yourself. I don't have experience. I'm not afraid of needles or anything, but I just felt like I was screwed if I did it myself. So I had a home health nurse who would come to my house every morning at 9 a.m. and do it.
Okay. Because I didn't know if you were going to like a facility to have it done, but that's very helpful.
Yeah, the first day you do go to a facility just so they can monitor you to see how you react to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you can either do it yourself or have someone come to your house.
Okay. Now, once you learned that the man who received your stem cells was doing well, what did it feel like to get that update? And like, have you been able to speak to him at all, or will you get a chance to speak to him?
So when they called me, and this was probably, maybe a week later, they told me that he had received the transplant and that he was doing well, that he was already showing signs of improvement. And I was so glad to hear that because one of the biggest things, I'll tell you, there were 2 things that concerned me. The first thing is when they were doing all the blood testing, I was afraid they were going to find something wrong with me and like, oh, you can't donate. You actually have, blah, 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 or this is wrong with you. You need to go to, that was my first fear. So I got all clear there. I was like, phew, okay, I can go ahead and do this and get it done. And then my second concern, what if he gets my donation and it doesn't work? I was like, I kind of felt like I was going to feel like a failure if I did all of this and they said, actually, your blood didn't help him. So I was so relieved when I got that first phone call and heard that he was showing signs of improvement. Now, I won't be able to contact him for about a year just for privacy reasons. And also, I think they want to make sure that his health is indeed doing well, but they're going to keep me updated on the process. I just got a letter in the mail the other day saying I can start contacting him anonymously if I want to and just kind of ask how things are going, et cetera, find out more. But as far as I know right now, he is doing well. But I hope to meet him next year and just kind of learn more about him.
Oh, that would be great. That would be so great. So with that, even that process, that waiting to hear how he was doing, if it worked or not, what was that like mentally? Because that, to me, I would be sitting here not being able to sleep, anxious.
That's exactly. I was so anxious and I was thinking about it every night. I'm like, oh, are they going to call me? Or are they going to let me know, what's going on? I was even concerned. I was like, did my blood make it there? Did my stem cells even make it? Because they actually send someone, a person comes and personally escorts your stem cells on a plane to the hospital. Because I don't even know where he's located. They just told me that they just said that this is somebody who's in the United States. And so they send someone to where I am. They pick it up themselves. They get on the plane. They take it directly to the hospital just to make sure that your patient is getting your stem cells. So I mean, that whole process, just concerned about, I mean,
Yeah.
did the bag break or something? Did something happen in transit? Am I going to have to do it again? I was so concerned. So it was such a relief when they finally called me and said, hey, things are going in the right direction.
That's good news. Because I was thinking as soon as you said they got on a plane, I was thinking Grey's Anatomy because that's where I
Yeah,
went to medical school.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. You just never know.
Right, exactly. You guys, if you still have more questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat. I do see questions about how to sign up to be a donor.
Yes. So you can go to nmdp.org. I believe that's the website. Yeah, nmdp.org. And you can sign up to become a donor. You just fill out some information there on their form, and they'll send a kit to your house.
Mhm.
And like I mentioned, all it is just a cheek swab. So you just, go in there, rotate it a little bit to kind of collect what they need, and then you just send it back to them, and it's that. And I know somebody asked about the guidelines earlier. So they look for donors between the ages of 18 and 40.
Mhm.
But once again, if you're older than 40, if you're still healthy, you might want to contact them because you can probably still sign up. They want you to be a resident of the U.S., its territories, or freely associated states, able to meet their health guidelines, like I mentioned, and not already registered through another U.S. organization when it comes to that. And even members of the military, they can join as well. And so once you're registered, you'll stay listed as a potential donor for patients until you're 61, unless you're asked to be
Wow.
removed. So you're going to stay in there in that registry until you're around 61.
So I have a random question that just popped in my head. You mentioned that you have to be healthy. They want people to sign up when they're young. Say they are, I don't know, 50 something, and then a health issue pops up. Are they supposed to contact them and say, take me off this list?
Um, you probably can do that. If there's something that would make you ineligible to donate, you can call and be taken off the list. But
Okay.
also, there's some things like there's a lot of things that don't disqualify you. You might have different health issues that they're okay with.
Okay.
I don't want to speak to exactly what those are, but I know that there's some things that you might think would disqualify you that don't. So
Hmm.
there's still a good chance that even if you have some medical issues, you can donate.
Okay. And you also mentioned that you will remain this man's donor for up to a year. So is that in the case that if he may need another, need you to give more stem
Yeah,
cells? Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And so once again, I say I would have to go through the whole process again, except I wouldn't have to take those injections again.
Okay. I bet you're like, whew.
Yeah, yes. I don't know. Well, I'm definitely okay with it, but I would have to kind of go through the same procedure.
So what was the reaction when you got back to work after all this? After you came back from your vacation and everything?
Everyone around me, friends, family, my coworkers, they're like, "Oh, you're a hero. You saved someone's life." And to me, I'm like, this was just so easy. I was like, I don't consider myself a hero. I'm glad I was able to help out, but I'm like, this didn't require that much of me.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just a little bit of my time, and I was able to
Right.
get this done. It was just, they call it a vacation. They call it like what do they describe it as? Like your donor vacation? Because I felt like I was on vacation.
Hmm.
Doing all of this. It wasn't a big deal at all, but like just everyone around me, they were like, "Wow, I can't believe you did that. You're a hero. You saved someone's life," and I appreciated it. But to me, this was nothing.
Yeah. So what made you, I know you wanted to get the story out because of just because there aren't a lot of African American donors. But what else made you want to share this story and I mean, obviously you're a journalist, so you're going to want to, I'm always like even the surgery I just had, I'm like, ooh, stories. So,
Right, exactly. I think it's all about our jobs combating misinformation. And
yeah.
I think just having that conversation with them that this is not a procedure that causes a lot of pain. It's not going to put you out of commission for a long time. And I'm like, there's so many people who don't think that way. And I've had viewers come up to me who saw the story and said, I'm so glad you said that because there were so many misconceptions I had about this. And they were
Hmm.
like, it makes me want to sign up now because of your story, because you cleared up a lot of information,
Yeah.
misinformation that was out there. And then
Hmm.
when I heard, the situation about Black donors and recipients, I'm like, people need to know this. Like,
Yeah.
there's people out there who need to be saved. And especially, in the Black community or whatever, if you're part of a minority community, you need to know that there's someone out there who may look like you who has no other option. They might lose their life because of it. So if we can get more people of color to sign up, I've saved this man's life, but we might be able to save somebody else's life too. So
Yeah.
to get that information out there.
So, can you talk about some of those misconceptions that you've heard? Just as you've been going through this, sharing your story, what have you heard? Because I know I'm sure I've got some in my head that I probably thought when I first saw you
Yeah.
announce that, because I was like, ooh,
First, you're going to be in the hospital a long time.
yeah, that's what I thought.
You're going to go through this procedure. You're going to have to stay in the hospital for a long time. You're not going to be able to walk for a
Oh,
month. You're not going to, and I'm like, that's not the case. Or you're going to be in a lot of pain. They're going to have to take a big needle and stick it into your bone, and it's going to be painful, and it's going to hurt for you, and you're not going to be able to lay down, and you're not going to be able to do all of this and that.
mhm.
That just wasn't the case. Or, are you risking your life, by doing this? Is it a chance that, you could die because of this procedure? And it's very low, very low when it comes to a situation like this. Or, just a lot of things about, maybe something could go wrong. And I've heard all those different misconceptions. I will tell you, and I do want to mention this,
Okay.
the procedure where they do have to go into your bone, that does still exist, but they told me normally that would be if you were donating to a child. It kind of just
Oh,
depends on what the doctor recommends.
mhm.
More than likely, most people would do the procedure that I did.
Okay. So, well, that's interesting because that just threw me off. I just assumed they didn't do that procedure anymore, but that's helpful to know.
It's still, for
Because it's
some
still
situations, they may have to do it, but the
okay.
procedure I did is still the most common right now.
Gotcha. So how did you deal with these people when they were like flooding your comments and maybe your inbox, or even saying it to your face? Because sometimes when you've made a decision to do something and then you've got people like, well, with their 2 cents, and it just makes you question, should I do this? Or how did you
Right.
shut all that noise out?
I would say most of the comments I received, they were overwhelmingly positive, encouraging me to do it. So
Good.
I didn't have a lot of negative comments. I think I just had a lot of people were maybe asking, oh, are you going to have to spend your own money to do this? Is this going to jeopardize your own health?
Hmm.
And once again, I've always been someone who wants to help other people. That's
Yeah.
always, even I wanted to become a doctor. First, because I wanted to be able to, help people who are struggling. Actually, I wanted to be an obstetrician because I wanted to deliver babies. And some of that had to do with me watching The Cosby Show because I was like Dr. Huxtable. So that was a little bit of it, but I just wanted to bring new life into the world because I've
Oh,
always enjoyed, helping people. And then when I started taking classes to become a doctor, I said, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this. So I was like, what's the next best thing? And then
yeah.
becoming a news anchor, a reporter, with my segment Ask Anthony, I'm able to help people with problems they can't solve. So I'm still helping people in that way. But that's always been my goal. Whatever I can do to help someone, I'll do it. On my driver's license right now, you can see donor. If
Mhm.
in a situation that I pass away and if I have some healthy organs that people need, take what you want. I'm not going to need them. So if I
Right.
can help, save somebody else, that's
Mhm.
always been my goal.
Well, actually, that brings me to my next question. I'm so sorry to laugh at. You threw me off when you said the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. I'm like, I've
Yeah.
known you for how long, and I was not
Uh-huh.
ready for that answer. But the driver's license thing, checking that you want to be a donor, because I think so many, again, Black people, they decide
Mhm.
like, oh no, you're not
Yep.
gonna have me all cut up and be,
Uh-huh.
whatever the misconception is. And even with this, does being put into this registry, they're going to want to know, does that mean they're supposed to check yes for the driver's license, or clearly it's two separate things, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Because I'm trying to think. I think I've been like an organ donor probably before I signed up for the registry because I got my driver's license at 16. So I think I've been an organ donor as long as I can remember before this.
oh, okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, even with the donation of my stem cells, it's still a process in a way too that I think your blood, they can also keep your blood around to your stem cells for further testing, just to kind of help them learn more about the process and
Hmm.
the improvements that can be made, any, medical advancements that could possibly happen. So they do kind of, there's some, they ask for your permission first, I guess I should say,
Okay.
if you want to do that, and I say, yes, you can, if you want to keep, whatever you need to do further testing, I'm okay with that. Some people might not be, so that's fine. You can opt out of that if you want to.
Okay. Well, for somebody who's watching, who may be still hesitant or afraid swab their cheek, or even afraid that somebody, if they do it and somebody calls 10
Mhm.
years later, 20 years later, why would you, or how would you explain that this is really a life-saving opportunity?
I would explain it this way: temporary pain, temporary troubles for a lifetime of saving someone or saving someone's life, extending their life for something that's only temporary for you. How can you say no to that? A temporary inconvenience to save someone's life. You can't say no. You can't say no. You're helping keep somebody's father, mother, husband, wife, brother, sister, son, daughter, whatever it may be. You're helping keep them around for those special holiday moments, for their birthdays, to see their child walk across the graduation stage, to maybe see their first grandchild be born. You know, whatever it may be, you're helping keep someone on this earth for those special moments. And it's only requiring some time, not even a lot, probably, less than a work week, maybe,
Mhm.
of your time to help save someone else. You can't say
You are good at convincing, because I'm like ready to sign up too. So again, remind everybody how they can sign up to be a donor, where they can, request the kit to do their own cheek swab.
So once again, I'm registered with the National Marrow Donor Program. That's NMDP. It used to be called Be the Match if maybe you were in college and they came to your college campus. So just go to nmdp.org and you'll find a link there where you can sign up. They'll send the kit to you in the mail. Once again, all you have to do is just swab your cheek, put it back in there, mail it off to them, and you're in the registry.
Well, I think I know what your answer is going to be for this last question. Just based on what we talked about today, but what feeds your soul?
What feeds my soul? Helping others. I believe we are all here to help each other out in this
Mhm.
thing we call life. So that's what feeds my soul, being able to help someone else who may be in need, who may be going through trouble. I just want people to know they're not alone. If you need help, I'm here to help you and to do whatever I can. So helping others, that's what feeds my soul every single day.
See, I was right. I was like, this is what he's going to say. I was right. Finally, after a year and some change, I got one right. Wow, the co-hosts tonight, they had some amazing questions.
Great question.
You guys, I hope we answered all of your questions. And if not, you can still, even after this, go and post some questions, and then I'll just tell Anthony to go look and see so he
Yeah.
can answer them for you. Um, Thank you, Anthony. This was so informative. I know I
Anytime.
learned a lot.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you for inviting me. I know you reached out after seeing me share my information. And I said, of course, if I can get the word out there any way I can, I'll do it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, oh, yes, I would love to see you.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, that as well. I would
Yeah,
love to see
that
you in person.
Now, this was very helpful, because I do think, just judging by the comments, I think you've helped to change a lot of mindsets
Mhm.
around, and like, I saw a lot of people in the comments saying thank you. This was very informative. I saw somebody say that great job explaining the process, because they just didn't know. So thank you again, Anthony.
No problem. No problem at all.
Yeah.
And feel free. You can find me, Anthony Austin, on social media. If you have any questions, I'll be sure to answer them for you.
Thank you. And everybody, for more information on becoming a donor, there's some stories and articles over on blackdoctor.org, resources there as well. And coming up on Soulibration next week, let's be honest, I can't be the only one. We've all asked ChatGPT for a little advice. It may
Uh-huh.
be, how do I talk to this coworker? It could be,
Mhm.
how do I address this person in my text messages? But we've all asked. So, do you think that you could be crossing the line, venting and receiving advice from it like it's a therapist? Have you
Mm.
guys thought about that? Have you heard
I
about
have.
people
We had this conversation at work yesterday, Shamika.
see using
Mhm.
ChatGPT as a
Yep.
therapist? We're going to
Yep.
talk about that next week. I'll have a licensed therapist here to talk all about it. So make sure you come back next week at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. And I hope you all have a soul filled rest of the week. Thank you again, Anthony.
Thank you.
Don't hang up though.